What's going on, guys? I'm Reno. Welcome to the Architect of I Am. Before we get into it, if you want to work with me, the link is in the description. I have a bunch of different options. But today I wanted to talk about robotic affirming, the most popular technique in the manifestation space and something that a lot of people will live and die by. This is their bread and butter. This is everything to them. So it's a very touchy subject for a lot of people because they are very emotionally involved with this aspect of it. But there are some truths behind robotic affirming that a lot of people don't understand, and that is why I am so anti robotic affirming. I stay away from it as far as I can. All of my clients, I teach them not to use techniques and teach them how reality actually works, because there's fundamental things that you need to understand to be able to materialize what it is that you want very easily and very quickly. And robotically affirming is keeping so many people away from what it is that they want while soothing them. And so, I mean, I fully understand why it is so popular and why it is such a emotional investment for a lot of people, because I mean, again, I've been in this space for 20 years. 20 years ago, I was that guy. I was robotically affirming all the time. I was scripting, I was visualizing, I was doing techniques out the ass, I was hopping from thing to thing. So I mean, I was very invested in robotic affirming 20 years ago before I actually understood how reality actually works and the fundamentals of all of this, because once you know that, you're golden. You can cut out the middleman. So let's jump into like why robotic affirming is so popular and such a dominant technique within the space. For a lot of people, when they learn about conscious creation, they're entering this space from a place of hopelessness, desperation, being tired of living the life that they want, and just overall unhappiness. So when you learn about conscious creation, since it is such a popular thing, that is more often than not the very first thing that people hear. Excuse me. Is you can change your life and materialize whatever it is that you want by simply repeating yourself. And there is this notion that repetition is the name of the game. It's the way to go. It's the easiest way to impress your subconscious mind, because it's all about impressing the subconscious mind, and there is no better way than repetition. So what ends up happening with this is this vicious cycle is created. Because again, for most people, when they're entering into this space, obviously they have no understanding of how reality actually works and how the game is and how to actually play this game. They hear that they can repeat themselves, they don't actually have to do anything, it's so easy. And of course, when you're in that place, you're going to latch onto the very first thing because you, one, know no better, and two, it sounds awesome, it sounds great. You mean that I can make $10 million this year and marry the love of my life and have all of these things by just repeating simple sentences? Yeah, that's easy. I can do that all day long. But unfortunately, what happens is people are able to materialize aspects of this, never really their full desired reality. But they can materialize things enough to keep them going and keep that fire burning and the excitement and the belief that this is the best way to do it. But at the same time, before they even materialize anything, it is that glimmer of hope that is the beacon, the life raft in the tumultuous ocean that they're so desperately searching for. They get that and they latch onto it. And pretty typically they don't want to really progress beyond that because it soothes them. It's that emotional regulation. It's again that beacon of hope when everything seems to fall apart and they are drowning again. They can go back to this box that they have built to give the illusion of safety, give the illusion of success, give the illusion that everything's going to be okay, because again, it's an emotional regulation essentially. Now, I'm a huge proponent on knowing who you were, flushing out your old identity, because again, circle back to the basis of everything. It's identity. Identity is the thing that will always carry you long term. That is the most important thing ever, because identity is what manifests. It's not about the techniques. It's not about the affirmations. It's not about this, that, or the other. It's nothing more than identity work. Excuse me. But once you understand that it's nothing more than identity work, your life is extremely easy. Now, let's dive into the identity side of all this, because this ties directly into the robotic affirmation aspect of this. So your identity is easily changeable. Changing your identity at a fundamental core level is nothing more than acceptance, accepting the fact that you are able to do so. It's not about maintaining it or like on your own where you're having to constantly monitor it or affirm for it or keep the ball rolling. It's a one and done thing. Once you decide this is who I am and this is how my life is, and you do that with conviction, and conviction is nothing more than knowing, and I will give you an alternate technique in a little bit that can replace robotic affirming, that will add that conviction a lot quicker. Because again, I am anti-robotic affirmation. I'm anti any and all techniques for the simple fact that they are misused. They are nothing more than tools and aspects that you have at your disposal to use sparingly to give you a little bit of a boost, to calm yourself down, to do all of these things. Now, I'm so anti all of these things because, one, I was that person that was heavily dependent on robotic affirming and techniques and this, that, and the other, and keeping myself on the hamster wheel and perpetuating it never coming in, perpetuating the pushed out time frame of materializing what it is that I want. So that is why I'm so against it, because a lot of people cannot use them appropriately. They became a crutch very quickly, and they warp your view on what it is that you need to actually focus on, which is the basis of all of this, which is nothing more than identity work, making the decision and accepting it to be done. That is the extent. I say it all the time. It's one of my coined phrases. Manifestation is meant to be so easy that it pisses you off once it clicks, because that is how it is. We've been doing this around the clock since we were brought into this life, and it's on the same spectrum of breathing. We're doing it without even realizing. And the reason that a lot of people stick to techniques and robotic affirming and all of that is because they, one, don't know who they were, because they hear very quickly in the space that you need to do away with the old. You can't pay attention to the 3D. You can't have any ties to who you were, because if you do, you're perpetuating that identity. And that terrifies them, so they cut all ties. They refuse to do a deep dive on who they were. And again, I'm a huge proponent with that. If this is something that you are struggling with and you would like some assistance, I have coaching available. I've helped hundreds of people do a deep dive on who they are. And again, this can be a self-guided thing. All more power to you. You've got it in the bag. It's not that hard, but if you'd like a helping hand, an unbiased set of eyes, kind of picking apart all of the potential blind spots and all of that to help you come to a firm understanding of who you were, it's available. But once you do a deep dive on who you were and you understand your identity, what that was based off of, it's rendered powerless immediately, because this is a big thing that you've got to remember. Your identity is easily changeable, but once you step into an identity and you stay there and you maintain it, and that frequency grows and the vibrational pattern grows and turns into the frequency, and that becomes your dominant identity, it's harder, loose termed, harder to swap that out, because it feels so familiar. It adds that sense of realism to it. So because of that, a lot of people think that this identity shift that needs to happen is some long drawn out process. But you also have to understand, and this is a big thing, that when you understand the fundamentals of how reality actually works in identity creation, again, creation is loosely, it's more identity selection, but description purposes, that's what we're going to go with. So those two aspects are single-handedly the most important things for you to learn. In all honesty, in my opinion, those should be your only focalized things that you go after, is learning who you were and understanding the fundamentals of reality. Once you know that, every shackle and tie is broken, and this is the fastest, easiest thing ever, and this becomes a giant game that is incredibly fun, and your life is something better than you could ever dream. And again, this is coming from somebody who's been in this place for 20 years, and I've materialized some insane things over and over again, and maintained them long term. So, once you understand the fundamentals of reality, which is nothing more than your dominant identity, which is what you believe to be true at your core and accept to be true, that is the basis of the world around you. That is the basis of the experience that you're having. Now, also dealing with that identity is malleable. It is not a set in stone thing unless you are allowing it to be set in stone. Because again, one thing that you cannot forget is most people hear effortless and easy and second nature, and that is their go-to, which it should be. That should be how it is for everybody. Life is meant to be easy. Life is meant to be simple and quick and yours for the taking. It should never be difficult. Now, because of that, they build this notion that it is only one way. Because again, not knowing who you were is a horrible thing for you, because it makes this process more difficult because you're unaware. It's essentially like, take manifestation as you walk into this room, you open a door, you walk into this room, there's things all over the floor, things for you to step on. The exit is your desired reality. All you need to do is walk through this room with all of this debris and things that you can trip on and hurt yourself on walking, but it's still easy to step over it because the lights are on, your eyes are open. It's not anything that you have to jump and work and climb and do all this stuff. It's just an easy walk. There is a path that is free and you can easily navigate it. Not knowing who you were and not knowing the fundamentals of reality is like you walk into that room and turn the light switch off. Now you're paralyzed by fear because you don't know how to go. You don't know what's in front of you, which is your old identity. If you do not know what you're comprised of, then of course, when aspects of that show up, you're not prepared for it. You don't know what it is. You think it's something more than what it is. It's not easily navigable. Like you cannot just freely go and get through this process the way it's meant to be with the lights on. And your identity is nothing more than a drop in the bucket of the pure consciousness that we are. We as beings are nothing more than consciousness. That is what we are at the fundamental core of ourselves. We are just experiencing consciousness through different lenses. Consciousness is an infinite expression. There are infinite possibilities and things that can come into your field at any given time, and they're easily, you can easily jump between them by simply making decisions. And again, this becomes very easy once you understand how all of this works, which again, it's nothing more than decision making. You have the world as your oyster, and you can have, do, and be whatever it is that you want if you allow that to happen. So this ties, don't worry, this all ties back into robotic affirming. I promise. We have to take this segue to get back to it. But because we are pure consciousness, we hone down and localize one aspect of it. It's kind of like the double slit experiment. You see all the infinite waves that are going out, and then when you when they looked at it, it went through the two slits, and it was honed in and focused there. That's essentially what exactly we're dealing with. So we're focused on the honed in aspect of this. So because of that, we are looking at it through one specific lens. That is our identity. Our identity is that focused down consciousness. So because of that, our dominant identity that we navigate life through and believe to be true and add all of these important aspects to it, it needs to maintain itself. It has one sole job. Your identity, which is honed down consciousness, has one sole job: self-preservation. And it will do any and everything that it possibly can to preserve itself. Now, because we are dealing with pure consciousness and the unlimited possibilities here, that can show up in any sort of way. Now, because it can show up in any sort of way, that also means that it knows itself, which ties into knowing who you are, which is probably the most popular thing that I do with people, is help them realize who they were. They get through all the blind spots, break all that shit down, yada, yada, yada. But knowing who you were and fleshing out that old identity regains that superpower that we all have, which is our awareness. Once you are fully aware of it, it's not scary. It's rendered useless immediately if you are aware of it. Now, this is where the robotic affirming comes in. A lot of people hear robotic affirming and they add that on to X, Y, and Z, and that's as far as they go. They're not willing to do anything because they fundamentally feel that this is the only way to go. This is the only way to do it. They even get some little breadcrumbs to keep them on the hamster wheel from materializing a little bit of money back and forth with a person. They get this, they get that, they get enough to hold them over, and that feeds that beast. But this is where it gets a little bit uncomfortable with all of this, because since we are pure consciousness that is honed down to our identity, our dominant identity knows the game. It is a fraction, small piece of pure consciousness. It's not broken off. It's not a solitary thing. It is part of the organism that is pure consciousness. And so since it is a part of that, it knows all of that. And since your identity has one sole job, which is self-preservation, it needs to do one thing with you: keep you in the dark. It needs to keep you thinking that it is the only way. It needs to keep you thinking that it is a longer process than a simple split-second decision with conviction. Now, again, the conviction part, I'm going to explain all of that, and I'm going to give you a better tool to use than robotic affirming. Because, again, I am anti all of these things, but I understand how they work. I know that they are tools. I know that they can be useful. They have a place in this puzzle. As time goes on and the more you accept, you don't need those tools anymore, and you do away with them, which is where I'm at and a lot of the clients that I've had in the past are at, because they understand the fundamentals. But again, it's your own journey. It's all okay. You don't need to get there immediately. You can get there a lot faster. That's what we're here for. So, because your old identity needs to self-preserve, and it knows that as soon as you figure out how the game works and you figure out how to switch identities and you figure out the game and you peek behind the veil, it knows that it's powerless. So if it's self-preserving, it needs to keep you in the dark. Once it realizes that you become aware of the situation, it will start to implement its tactics to keep you in the dark as long as possible. And this doesn't just mean by being fully unaware of all this, but it puts roadblocks in there and extends that outcome, which is the materialized desired reality, any possible way that it can. And one of those ways is dropping these little breadcrumbs of consciousness in to give you the illusion of forward momentum, to give you the illusion of control without actually giving you control. Because again, it's keeping you in the dark. So, this comes in with robotic affirming. Excuse me, I need to get some water. But this comes in with robotic affirming because robotically affirming gives you the illusion of the power. But what happens with that is that illusion is just enough to keep it going, but it's perpetuating the full unfolding and the full materialization of your desired reality from ever truly coming in, because it's still outside of you. Because what ends up happening is people become reliant on the affirmations. They think that it's the words that they speak and the number of times that they speak that matters. They think that you have to repeat these things to reprogram your subconscious mind, but there's never any end in sight of a full, completed reprogramming. It's always extended because they're not getting to the root cause of all of this and the important aspects of this, which is one, knowing who you are, and two, understanding the fundamentals of reality, which is its unlimited, infinite possibilities that we can freely step in between at will, and us deciding internally and validating ourselves internally on that decision being enough is the trick to the game. Your identity that you have been for so long is doing exactly what it's meant to do, keeping itself alive, maintaining itself. So, if its sole purpose is to maintain itself, and it knows you in and out, it knows every little thing that it can do that it can trip you up, it knows that as soon as you learn and peek behind the veil, the gig is up. It will extend its life force and time available any and every way it can, because it knows that you got that little bit of a breadcrumb. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, but that tunnel is infinite. But along the way, you get little things handed to you. You get some materializations, you make some money, you see some success. It goes away, you can do it again. All while, okay, well, it went away because I'm just not maintaining the state enough. I need to affirm more. Okay, yeah, that's exactly right. We gave you the breadcrumb to calm you down. You lost it because it's not part of your current identity that you're unaware of. Guess what? Hey, you know what? It's not because of your identity. It's not an easy fix. You just got to affirm more. You got to go back to robotically affirming. And this is how that hamster wheel keeps going for the longest amount of time. So, to negate all of this, you need to accept that your identity is a self-propelled mechanism. It is not something that you need to help along the way. This is not something that you need to hold its hand and walk this path with it. You set it off to do its job, and it will execute it until you tell it to stop. Now, this also means that this is why understanding who you were is so important, because you will understand your emotional triggers and your expectations and viewpoints and everything comprised of your old identity. As soon as you're aware of that, as you set your new identity off to become the dominant force, nothing can slow that down. You see something unfold in your physical reality that does not align with your desired reality, or it's the complete opposite, or something that brings up an emotional reaction from you, it loses its power because you know that it's your old identity trying to self-preserve. The intrusive thoughts, the waking up and having a negative emotion, any of these things, you are fully aware of what they are. They're just your old identity trying to gain relevancy, because as you've set off your new identity, which is just simply making a decision that this is who I am and this is how my life is, once you do that, you are done. You can add emotion to it, and you can implement these tools with the affirmations, the visualizations, this, that, and the other. You can do those to muster that up and make it feel stronger. Is it necessary? No, because it's a snowball and compounding thing. Once you set this new identity in motion, it can't stop. It's just like the saying, an object in motion remains in motion. It's the same for identity. An identity in motion remains in motion. So, because it remains in motion, it's inevitable. The materialization is inevitable. That path forward, the aspects added onto you, all of these things are a natural occurrence to where you don't even realize what it is. And that's the beauty of all of this, is because if you will let your identity do what it's meant to do, it gains enough speed and momentum to where in 6 months' time, and again, I'm just using 6 months as a broad spectrum thing, it could happen in a day, it could happen in 6 months, it could happen in a year. It's different for everybody. When it materializes, when you fully accept that you are the one in control and you have power over every aspect of it. You are no longer emotionally attached to the outcome, because you know that, one, it's inevitable, and two, what you say goes. But regardless, back to the whole point of all of this, once you accept that your old identity is trying nothing more than to self-preserve, you will realize why exactly these things are not materializing. Because the robotic affirmations feel good. It gives you the illusion of control. It gives you the illusion of forward momentum. And this can also be extrapolated into the whole limiting belief thing. You can get stuck on that hamster wheel of eliminating limiting beliefs that were never there in the first place. You have conjured up these new limiting beliefs to give the illusion of getting there, give you the illusion of forward momentum and progress. It's not about the progress, it's already done. As soon as you make that decision, your manifestation is done. There's nothing more to do. There's no progress to be made. It's done. That is the level of acceptance that you need to get to, and that is why the robotic affirming ties into your old identity so perfectly, because your old identity, like I've said a million times in this video, is doing nothing more than self-preservation. So if it's self-preservation and it knows you're right at the cusp of finding out and peeking behind the veil, it's going to slow you down any which way it can, which comes into play with the whole robotic affirming aspect of it, because now your robotic affirmations have to be done. You are now under the assumption that if you are not robotically affirming, you are not keeping that new identity going, and that is true for you. You have got to robotically affirm to get any forward momentum on the new identity becoming the dominant one, and it's a very long-winded emotional roller coaster of a journey, because you are now at the mercy of only making progress when you are repeating yourself. But all while the case is as soon as you stop, nothing is happening. If you are not repeating yourself, there's no forward momentum. You are only pushing it along whenever you are doing your robotic affirmations. On top of that, not only are you now taking a self-propelled mechanism and removing the engine from it and forcing yourself to be the only indicator of it gaining dominance, now you are also still completely oblivious to the inner workings of your old identity, because this now becomes a crutch and an emotional regulatory aspect, because if you have a negative thought, you're unaware of your old identity, so you don't know why this is coming up, so it immediately triggers back into I'm not doing something right, which is, again, prolonging the materialization even more than it was prior to. It's still keeping you right from your old identity, still keeping its claws sank into you, even though you are actively working on cultivating this new identity. It is not you're not allowing it to freely, naturally happen, because you're unaware of the tricks of the old, which is, again, why I am such a huge proponent on anti-technique, anti-affirmation, knowing who you were. I'm a pro knowing who you were, pro turning over all the rocks, because becoming aware, I've said this a million times on a lot of my TikTok videos, is your awareness is a superpower. And I wholeheartedly believe that, because as soon as you're aware of things, it's neutralized. Neutrality is a great thing. But it's a back and forth battle of your old identity keeping its claws into you, prolonging all of this, giving you little breadcrumbs, keeping you in the dark, while subsequently you are attempting to kickstart this new identity. So it's this back and forth of do, but you're still being shackled back, and instead of being able to work freely and efficiently, it's essentially like tying your feet together, and you are pushing your old identity along by hopping along and like shuffling your feet. So the biggest thing to remember is your priority needs to be accepting, because, again, another aspect of this when it comes to the robotic affirmation side is that is comfortable. That is just enough. You are getting drip fed just enough hope and happiness and fulfillment with that from your old identity, that it's keeping you on the hamster wheel. And again, you're completely oblivious to all of this, because you're unaware of who you were. You're unaware of the game being played. So it's no slight to you. It's a you problem, but it's not a you problem because it's a you problem because if you're aware of how the game plays and you refuse to do anything on it, then that's your problem. But if you're completely unaware, it's not your deal. You just aren't there yet. So either way that you go about this, either A, you're hearing this video for the first time and you're like, oh, holy shit, this actually makes a lot of sense. Great. If you're unaware to all of this, you are now aware. Now, guess what? It's done. If on the flip side of this, you are still in bed with the whole robotic affirmation thing because of the pride and ego thing of like, well, it's different for me. It's not different for you. Fundamentally, at its core, it's the same for everybody. You're just on a different path, dropped off at different places. But again, the outcome is the same. The possibilities are the same. It's a instantaneous decision, and that's it. It's nothing more than that. It's about your acceptance and letting go and uncovering who you were. Now, a little bit of a side tangent here when it comes to uncovering who you were. This is a soft spot for a lot of people because they are under the assumption and impression that if they put any recognition into who they were, that it somehow completely makes everything crumble and they're back to square one. It's not the case. It's impossible to go back to square one unless you have decided that you're back at square one. You can keep deciding that all you want, but let's be honest here. You can either spend a day deep diving into who you were, knowing exactly who you were, knowing what you were comprised of, flushing everything out, flipping over every stone, opening every box, doing all of this stuff for one day, and now you're free. Or you can keep everything packaged up and not be aware of what's going on and shuffle your way through. That is your choice. It's not that it will ruin everything, it will catapult you forward exponentially as soon as you understand who you were. Because another big thing that ties into all of this with identity work is a lot of people are afraid of who they were because they think that they're resurrecting it and bringing it back to life. You've never fully destroyed your old identity. It is readily available for you to jump back into at any given time. It's easier to go back to it in the beginning because it's comfortable, it's familiar. The new identity is not as dominant yet. And that's okay, that's normal. But again, it's a snowballing, compounding thing. What feels uneasy today in 3 days will feel a lot more concrete. And there's a way that you could tell that it's starting to become the more dominant one, because if you have these negative thoughts, emotional reactions, things coming up, monitor how you are responding to them. In the beginning, you're freaking out, you're scared shitless, you're thinking that you're messing everything up, you're not sure why this is happening, this, that, and the other. You do the deep dive into who you were, those same things come up, maybe even pushed a little bit further to try to rattle you, and you're completely unfazed by it because you are aware that is nothing more than a facade of the old trying to keep itself alive. It's not you, it's not real, even though it feels extremely real because it's in this physical reality and on this emotional spectrum. It's not. It's all happening for you. You can immediately even take it a step further and flip the script on it and honestly laugh, because it's like, you are so far removed. This is a last-ditch effort in relation to your old identity. That's kind of how I'm speaking. Like, I'm talking to the old identity. And you're able to reclaim your power because, again, at the end of the day, what we're really doing when it comes to manifestation is remembering who we are, remembering how powerful we are, reclaiming our power and bringing it all back into us. And this is extremely important because what ends up happening with the techniques in the robotic affirmations is you get to these points of uncertainty, you get to these points of emotional dysregulation, you feel like this is happening, you experience something and it's jarring to you. So you run back to the robotic affirmations to self-soothe and calm yourself down. All while you are still giving those emotional things the power that they had before. Now you are just regulating yourself a little bit more. So you're never making any forward momentum. But after you affirm for a while and you calm yourself down and you kind of regain control, you have that illusion of forward momentum. And that's essentially all that your old identity wants. It wants to keep you busy over here doing whatever while it's free to live on and thrive. And you are completely unaware to it. Because again, that's all that it's trying to do, is just maintain itself. So if it can keep you occupied over here chasing your tail, it's going to give you some little things here and there to keep you on that never-ending circle. It's good because it's still doing its thing. It's not worried about you. The game's never going to be up because you're too busy chasing your tail. So, I mean, there's a million different aspects that your old identity can throw at you to give you a semblance of forward movement. At the end of the day, the number one thing that you have to remember is it's done instantly. Everybody loves talking about the instant manifestation, but they get hung up on the instant materialization. And what ends up happening with that is the materialization can happen instantly. You are not at a place of acceptance for that to be a thing. And you could get there, but that is a lot of inner work and breaking down the barriers of what you believe to be true, like kind of rebuilding that foundation from the ground up. And that is something that you need to kind of ask yourself, am I willing to go through that? Because it's going to be seemingly difficult because you are stripping who you are at your core and stripping your beliefs of how the world actually works and how life works for you, stripping that all away, being vulnerable to that, and rebuilding upon that with that new foundation. And is it difficult? No, but at the same time, it is difficult. It's emotionally difficult. It's internally difficult. It's going to feel heavy, and a lot of people are not willing and able to get through that heaviness because of the discomfort. They want to self-soothe and skirt by that as much as possible, which that also leads into aspects of your old identity. It wants to keep you with what's comfortable. That's it. But in the beginning, I had said that there are better ways to go about this and better tools to have than robotic affirming. And one of those ways is, it's coined as a rampage, which ultimately at all that it really is you are going to speak. You can do it out loud. I prefer it out loud. I do this every now and again, just when I get a wild hair up my ass, because it's also fun. It's also empowering. It's nice. It's a good boost internally. You're going to speak like you're speaking to an old lifelong friend who is your number one cheerleader. They support every single thing that you do. They think that you are God's gift to the earth and the sun rises and sets on your ass. So they want to hear all of the great things in detail, as ostentatious as you possibly can. Like you are coming up with the most elaborate, descriptive, over-the-top, empowering story about yourself and every aspect of you, your life, how things are, what you're experiencing, all of these things. You start doing that out loud from a place of knowing, not from, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. That does nothing. That musters up zero emotion. That musters up zero anything other than repeating a sentence. There's nothing to be done with that. That is falling flat on its face. When it comes to the rampages, it's over the top. You want to get to the point to where you are fighting dragons and fighting mythical beasts, and you're coming out on top, and you're pulling Excalibur out of the stone, and you've got massive corporations begging you to give them the secrets to how you're doing in business, and you're the everything. I mean, you can extrapolate this into literally anything. It's yours for the taking. You make it your own. You have fun with it. And the good thing with this is it does not have to be the same every single time. It's the implication of what that is coming out of your mouth. You can have different stories, different iterations, different things that are leading all to the same place. But you're implying that you're still at the same place. Because again, you want to have fun with this. there's no sense in making this miserable. A lot of people tend to make manifestation very miserable. They tend to make it very overwhelming and uncomfortable and frustrating. That's why a lot of people never materialize what it is that they want, or they step away and they go back the religious route, or they just do away with this altogether because they just throw their hands up and say it's not for me. Which is great for their old identity, because that's exactly what it wants. It wants to keep you in the victim mentality. But again, the faster that you can come to terms and accept the fact that the two most important variables when it comes to materializing your desired reality is, one, knowing who you were, fleshing out your old identity, and two, accepting the fundamentals of how reality actually works, which is it is identity based. Your dominant identity is what manifests. On top of those two most important pillars to this and set pieces, if you add in the acceptance that, one, your identity is a self-propelled mechanism. It does not matter if you are feeling bad, thinking bad, seeing bad. Your new identity is still moving along at warp speed, snowballing and compounding and becoming the dominant force until you say stop. As soon as you say stop, it stops dead in its tracks and it waits for you to say go again. You cannot regress when it comes to your manifestations. All you are doing is pressing pause for an extended amount of time. You want to try to stay on top of your emotions as much as possible. You can negate the spiraling instantly by knowing who you were, which leads back to the two set pieces that I talked about. Knowing who you were and understanding the fundamentals of reality and identity, which I've explained both multiple times in this video. Now it's just nothing more than acceptance, because now again, there's a million different pieces that can go into this. I can go on for 6-7 hours explaining all the nitty-gritty details of this. But essentially, if you get the root of all of this, everything else is very easy. It's all added on to you quickly. So once you can accept these two things, add that third piece in and add this fourth thing in that I'm about to tell you, is that it is instantaneous. Do not look for the instantaneous materialization. That is irrelevant. Because the more that you look for the instantaneous materialization, you let go of the fact that you are dealing with less than 0.5% of what's actually going on. You start looking to the less than 0.5% as the truth instead of the 99.5% that is transformed instantaneously. The materialization is inevitable. It will happen a lot quicker, faster, easier, unexpectedly than you are preparing for. You are still preparing for it to be an extended thing because that is what you've grown accustomed to. But if you go back to the set pieces that I'm talking about, that is negated. And you've got to also keep it in your head that just because you have spent 15 years under this identity, you have made the decision now, it's not going to take you 15 years to get as far with the new identity. It's a snowballing, compounding thing. And the second that you understand that any and all reaction, internally, externally, thing that you see going on, thing that you feel is still attached to the old, trying to drag you back, if it is not aligned with who you are, it is irrelevant. Anytime that these things come up and you see them and you are aware of them by using your superpower, aka your awareness, you negate them. You have now just sent your hyperdrive identity that is barreling down the track, becoming dominant. You have just fueled that fire 10,000-fold. And if you end up finding yourself falling off the bandwagon, guess what? If you catch yourself and regain, it picks right back up where it left. When you fell off the horse, it does not stop and slowly start retracting. It just stops. It was flying at warp speed and stopped. You fell off the horse, a couple days, a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months. Guess what? You get back on the horse, back into warp drive, back into overdrive. And so give yourself a little bit of grace with this, because it's a lot to take in. You've got to understand that it is a very easy but very complex aspect of things that we're dealing with here, because it's at the core of it, it is very easy. It's making a decision and accepting it to be true. But it's very difficult because you have to understand that you are disrupting who you were at your core, fundamentally. So it will feel overwhelming and feel icky and heavy and dirty and difficult and impossible to keep on this path when it's really not. It's just an illusion of difficulty. The faster that you can truly accept that you are the one in control, that everything is just coming from you and is only relevant if you decide that it's relevant, you're free. That's the beauty of all this. Manifestation is meant to be so easy that it pisses you off once it clicks, and this video was brought into you from your own consciousness for it to click. You're free. You're able to materialize whatever it is that you want. You're good. It's done. Accept that it's done. Accept that you don't have to affirm anymore. Accept that you don't have to do any techniques anymore. Accept the fact that you just were doing that because you were unaware. It's not your fault. This is a game. Have fun with it. You're good.